Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanim Kaishin, metric number 299855. Today, I will be presenting on a study on IJM Corporation Berhad, performance and its determinants. IJM Corporation Berhad is a Malaysian-based company that is principally engaged in construction and investment holding activities. It began as a result of a merger between three medium-sized local construction companies, which is IGB Construction Berhad, Juru Utama Sdn Berhad, and Budayajaya Sdn Berhad. IGM was formed in 1983 to compete as equals with well-capitalized foreign players who had entered the growing Malaysian construction industry. It was first listed on the Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange (KLSE) in 1986. It is now one of the largest construction companies in the domestic market, with its core businesses including construction and property development, with operations spanning 7 nations throughout the globe. A health crisis broke out at the end of 2019, namely the COVID-19 pandemic, and it had a devastating impact on the world, especially on businesses, large and small companies alike. All four divisions of IGM Corporation Berhad was impacted by the pandemic, causing profits and performance to drop significantly. For instance, the construction division of IGM Corporation Berhad was impacted by the subdued property market and a shortage of construction jobs available in the market. There are three research objectives in this study. The first is to determine the internal factors that could influence IJM's performance. Second, to determine the external factors that could have an influence on IJM's performance. And the third one is to investigate the internal and external factors that could influence IJM Corporation Berhad's performance. Next, there are also three research questions in this study. The first one is to determine if there's any relationship between the internal factors and IGM Corporation Berhad's performance. The second is there any relationship between the external factors of IGM Corporation Berhad and its performance? And the third one is to determine if there's any relationship between the internal and external factors of IGM Corporation Berhad and its performance. Moving on to literature review, there are 6 components in this part. The first is corporate governance. Corporate governance is a broad term that describes the processes, customs, policies, laws, and institutions that direct the organization and corporation in the way that they act, administer, and control their operations. In this study, corporate governance index will be used to determine how well corporate governance is implemented in a company. The next one is performance. The result of managing economic resources and the efficient use of these resources among investment, financing, and operation activities is known as performance. A company's performance is often associated with its profitability, and ROE and ROA is used to determine the performance of the company in this study. Moving on to liquidity risk, the ease which financial assets can be turned into cash without much loss of value refers to liquidity. The presence of liquidity risk implies that there is a chance of not being liquid, and the current ratio is used to measure liquidity risk in this study. For credit risk, it is the risk that occurs when the counterparty's ability to meet its obligations is uncertain, and the average collection period and debt to income ratio is used to determine the credit risk in this study. Operational risk is the risk of loss due to inadequate or failed internal processes, people and systems, or from external events. The risks and uncertainties which a company faces during its daily business operation is also referred as operational risk. In this study, operating margin and operational ratio is used to measure the operational risk of the company. Next, for market risk, it is a risk of losses caused by market price movement. The probability of loss due to changes in indicators whose values are determined by the public market is also known as market risk. Moving on to methodology. The data collected is from IGM Corporation Berhad's annual report from 2019 to 2023. Next, for statistical techniques, multiple regression is used in this study and it is used to determine the relationship between the dependent variable and external variable and independent variable. The information extracted from the annual reports are imported into an Excel file and finally analyzed by SPSS. For data analysis, ROE will be the dependent variable and the independent variable consists of internal factors, external factors, and internal and external factors combined. Model 1 is used to analyze the internal factors, while Model 2 and Model 3 are used to analyze the external factors and internal and external factors combined respectively. For SPSS, it is the short form for statistical package for social sciences, and the data for the report was examined using IBM SPSS version 26. SPSS is a powerful and user-friendly software tool for data processing and statistical analysis. Moving on to descriptive statistics. The table below shows the descriptive statistics of the study. It is a quantitative study that provides useful information, allowing trends to be examined. According to the table below, the first column shows the variables that are used in this study, including the dependent and independent variable. The second column contains the mean of the respective variables, and the third column contains the standard deviation of the variables. Moving on to the correlation table. The table below shows that the performance or ROE of IJM Corporation Bwrr is positively affected by 9 variables, which includes the ROA, current ratio, average collecting period, operating ratio, inflation rate, exchange rate, unemployment rate, GDP growth rate, and industrial production rate. Moreover, the table also shows that the ROE is significantly affected by 6 variables, which includes the ROA, debt to income ratio, operating margin, GDP growth rate, and industrial production rate. Moving on to model summary. As we can see, there are 3 models that are used in this study. The first are the internal model, which contains the internal factors. There are 3 variables that significantly affect the ROE of the company, which includes the CG index, current ratio, and operating ratio. Next, for the external model, there are also 3 factors that significantly affects the ROE of the company, which includes the GDP growth, unemployment, and inflation rate. Lastly, the third model, which includes the internal and external variables combined, also have 3 variables that significantly affect the ROE of the company, which are the interest rate, current ratio, and operating ratio. In this part, we can see that there are 3 coefficient models used in the study. The first model includes the internal variables. According to the table, we can see that out of the 3 variables, only the operation ratio has a significant impact on the performance of the company with a p-value of 0.057. Next, the external table shows that out of the 3 variables, none of the variables shows a significant impact on the performance of the company, as all their p-values are more than 0.1. Thirdly, the internal and external variables combined table shows that out of the 3 selected variables, none of the variables have a significant impact on the performance of the company, with as their p-values are also more than 0.1. For the discussion of results, we can see that the key findings shows the internal model with the highest R-square value, followed by the combined model and the external model. Next, the correlation table shows that 9 variables positively affects the performance of the company, namely the ROA, current ratio, average collecting period, operating ratio, inflation rate, exchange rate, unemployment, GDP growth, and industrial production rate. Next, for the significance part, we can see that the correlation table shows that ROE is significantly affected by the variables that includes ROA, debt to income ratio, operation ratio, operating margin, GDP growth, and industrial production rate. And the coefficient analysis shows that the ROE is only significantly affected by the operating ratio. By cross-analyzing the two tables, we can see that the operating ratio is the main factor that influences the performance of IJM Corporation Berhad. Recommendations. To decrease its operating ratio, IJM Corporation Berhad could reduce its operating expenses by tracking their spending in a more detailed and closely manner to optimize its spending by performing cost optimization and restructuring. IJM Corporation Board could also review its operational costs, staff levels, and implement flexible work schedules to reduce the operating expenses. To increase its sales, IJM Corporation Board could implement an effective marketing strategy by targeting the right audience to increase its sales. They could also do a detailed research on their potential clients and learn about their needs before making a proposal to increase their odds of securing a contract. That's all from me today. Thank you.